Welcome to Buckets, coming to you from the Tommy John Home Studios. My name's Matt Moore. I'm not even supposed to be here today. Today was supposed to be my day off, but Sean Little can't remember to get his fucking laptop and bring it home, so here we are. So I have best bets for you on tonight's show with Bryan Fonseca on the mixtape. I actually was sad. I wanted to do the show tonight because we've been doing really well. The show killed on Cavs Thunder this week. That was a dynamite episode. I put out an article that laid out all my stuff for Cavs Thunder. We hit on Mobley props. We hit on Cavs -2. We hit on Cavs first half, which I know the boys had on the show. It was a great night. It was just a phenomenal. I was one assist away from a same game parlay. One Shea assist on the same game parlay. But I capped the hell out of that game. Was very happy with it. Been a good week for us here on Buckets as we continue to roll through the season. Bryan Fonseca is on Twitter and in the Action Network app at Bryan Fonseca NY. I have forgotten to get back to him about a text about me coming on his show on his YouTube channel. So after we get done, I'm going to do that and have that conversation with him. We're going to do best bets for tonight's show. We'll talk Jimmy Butler here at the top of 5 minutes, and then we'll do best bets for Friday in the association. Okay.
There's straight Jimmy Butler open for me here, by the way.
Look, man, you can't bet Heat money line 7 times in the 2023 NBA playoffs and then not be the Heat guy on Buckets. If Karl-Anthony Towns scores 45 straight times, I'm talking to Delera.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. And I guess with Turvey, it's
Hawks.
if Caitlin Clark scores 35 times, that's
or if Jalen Johnson just 30 and 20.
Yeah. If the Hawks go on a winning streak, bet they're under today. By the way, Jim Turvey, bet on their win total under. Hit that. That's in the Action Network app, the award-winning Action Network app, which you can download for free right now, and then sign up for our pro subscriptions and get all sorts of stuff. I've been talking to Brandon Anderson all week about wildcard stuff. I really badly wanted to be on the wildcard stuff for Action Network podcast, but Matt Mitchell wouldn't let me. So if you guys can please tweet at Matt Mitchell and tell him to let me on the NFL shows so I can just argue with Brandon about his cap. I don't want to give out picks. I just want to argue with Brandon about his cap. That's all I want to do. You can check that out. Go download the Action Network app. Go to youtube.com/the Action Network. Okay, Bryan.
Yes.
The only reason I want to touch on Jimmy with you was this, okay, is there's posturing now, this whole thing has been hilariously predictable. There's posturing now that Jimmy's suspension is up next Friday versus Denver, and he can just return and play. And both sides are like, maybe I will. Good. We want you to come back. Maybe I will. Good. We're looking forward to it. That's what we're doing now, as neither side can be adults about this. Which I get, because Jimmy knows that the more uncomfortable he makes this, the worse it is, and the more that they have to do something about it. It's a really hilarious. I just, as much as I have faith that Pat Riley and the Heat are going to navigate the situation ably and get out of this and probably wind up with something pretty good, they'll make chicken salad here. It is really funny that the Heat have taken the approach of, you're trapped in here with us, and Jimmy Butler's you're trapped in here with me, and that's very much how it is.
This is Jimmy why Butler they were perfect for each other once upon a time.
Yes, it's true. Does Jimmy Butler play again for the Miami Heat, in your opinion?
Oh my God, I still want to say no. I think I was more convinced it was a no when the suspension was initially announced, because it's all right, 7 games in the NBA is generally 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to get something together. But as this kind of progresses, and this is what we were saying before, it's hard to make a trade happen just because they don't want Bradley Beal. Phoenix is seemingly hell-bent on getting rid of Bradley Beal in this trade. So, okay, you got to find another team and maybe another team. And it's just hard to make the math work with new CBA, second apron, all the things that we've been talking about on this show for weeks now. But my gut still says that I'd be surprised if he's going to play another game for them. But, the Heat reportedly wanted him in the facility. He worked out at the facility, posted it on his Instagram stories, was with assistant coaches and things like that. This was within the last few days, so he's been there. That doesn't tell me that the relationship is smoothed over, because clearly he wants out, wants his money. And Phoenix seems poised to give him his money, because Phoenix is hey, Matt Ishbia, if you're Matt Ishbia, he's I'd rather pay Jimmy than Bradley Beal. And it's cool. Now find somebody for Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal has a no trade clause. So it's like and I almost feel bad for Bradley Beal because it's like Phoenix is trying to almost make it so uncomfortable for him, benching him and things of that nature, so that they could just force his hand, and then he could be like, all right, fine, I'll go to the Pistons or whoever the other team is. I'm just throwing a team out there, but
yeah. The thing is with Bradley's no trade clause. I don't even know. The only team I know that he would have interest in that would want him is the Lakers. Okay, that's me. All right, that's speculation. I've heard that like the Lakers are not out of this conversation, but I don't think they're necessarily like super interested. It does make a lot of sense to me. Where I'm like, yeah, you get a third guard. Like you lost D'Lo,
sure,
go get a third guard. It's just making the money work. It's $50 million. Like how?
It's hard for them though if they're not going to have Reeves, and I'm sure they don't want to have Reeves in a deal.
They don't want to have Reeves in the deal, and so it's like you just can't give Rui and Vando and whatever and push it through. But that's where the other teams come in. So there are some ways to do this that I've like looked at, not just with the Lakers, but just like with various teams, just tinkering because what I do think we're probably going to have is I think we're going to have a 4-team deal.
I agree. Actually,
I think it's going to be Miami, Phoenix, a third team to take Beal, and then another team to move the money. And that's what I think it's going to be. And what's interesting is like Detroit is the most likely candidate to be the money mover because Detroit has some large contracts and is still kind of, but the problem with Detroit is Detroit was like very open for doing this kind of business early. They were like, yeah, no, I mean, we're going to be better this year, but like, we're not going to be good. So we still want to set ourselves up for the future. And now they're like, I mean, we're 500. So, and like Jaden Ivey could come back by the end of the year, like, and it's the Eastern Conference, like, we might actually make the playoffs. And so,
yes, they might.
They're in kind of a jam. Charlotte's the other one that I haven't heard anything about this yet. But Charlotte's the other team that I would look to as far as like possibly being a money mover. Charlotte's made it very clear that they're just like, we are open for business. You send us second rounders, you send us first rounders, and we will launder your money all day long. That is fine with us. So I'm kind of curious to see kind of what happens with that. Like whether, and like, not to put too fine a point on it, but Miles Bridges is Clutch Sports. So like,
yeah,
would that surprise you? Probably not. There's a couple of constructs. One thing I will say that has made rumblings is that Chicago is at least involved in these conversations as a partner, where I don't think Chicago is going to take Beal, but Chicago, because they want to move Levine and Vucevic, and both of those are large contracts, Chicago's willing to be the one that's like, hey, we'll help send something out so that you guys can get this deal done. The problem is that Chicago's like, we don't want anything back. And Miami also is like, we don't want anything back. And I think Phoenix is like, someone has to take the money.
Right.
Like one of you guys has to take the money back. And that I think is going to be kind of like a tough one. I will ask you this. Do you think Miami, if they're like, I think they would pivot very quickly if they were like, wait, we can get these guys. I think they would pivot like that back to, okay, hey, wait, we could get these guys and make a run. Tyler and Bam and insert guy here. Yeah. I am not sold on them being like a hard no on the money, but I'll ask you from your informed perspective what you think.
They want to remain competitive. Like that's the indication that they're going to give. Pat Riley is going to be 80 in March. He doesn't have time for a rebuild. This is also, by the way, for me, even if it's not Phoenix, although we could talk about whether or not it has to be Phoenix at some point, but quote unquote, I think this is more incentive to move on from Jimmy now because they could actually pivot quickly because of what the money could open up.
Right.
And I think part of me thinks that the front office wants to get this done so that they can, get into that future pretty quickly because they still want to make the playoffs this year. I don't reasonably think that they're going to potentially even win a playoff series. I mean, all that becomes matchup dependent, but I don't think they're one of the 4 best teams in the East at all. But they can make it to the playoffs. It's the Eastern Conference. They would just probably have to navigate the play-in once again for a 3rd straight season. But there's packages out there, or there could be packages out there, we'll see, because of the money that Jimmy commands and the money you'd have to take back. Like you can get a couple of players who can actually help you make a push forward, it would just become like Tyler Bam centric, but also like Jaime Jaquez has been playing better lately. Nikola Jovic has been playing better lately. You have Haywood Highsmith, who's a multi-positional defender. Like, you have guys, and then if you add a couple more role players, Eric Spoelstra is good at coaching up those type of teams. We've seen it before. So I think the goal for them seems to be to remain competitive. I think if I'm them, if it were me, if I'd be trying to go for, like, yes, you have to get the matching salary. I would want someone who could be a contributor on the short term. If you can get a young player, great. If you can get like a pick swap, great. I don't think they're going to get like an ambitious amount of draft capital. I think the main thing is just sort of getting players in the short term, because and this is probably also for a bigger discussion, but it seems like teams are gearing for 2026 for like the return of free agency, quote unquote. And it looks like because the way the new CBA is making it difficult to deal, that players may actually make it there. So I think some teams are going to circle that, because if you look at a lot of the contracts, like, there are a lot of players who are set to come off at that point, and I don't know how many of them are going to get extended right now.
I also heard the 5 Reasons episode with George Sedano, so I also heard about the return to free agency in that season. I want to shoot you, and this is okay. I want to line break. This is 100% speculative. This is not something I have heard discussed. I am visualizing a concept. You got to find a team to take the money, okay? Because Chicago won't take it back. Okay.
I have a thought for you on that, by the way, but we'll get to it.
Beal goes to X team. X team sends empty contracts back to Chicago. Chicago sends Levine to Milwaukee. And the Milwaukee Bucks send Damian Lillard to the Miami Heat. Look. Dame's been good this year. And Dame's been good in terms of his mopiness. He hasn't been as mopey as last year. I think he still wants to be there. Like,
you do? Why? Even now?
There are things in life.
I know
that he's interested in.
Yeah.
That live in Miami.
I think you might have said too much already.
So the culture of Miami is very important to him.
Sure, yeah.
And so, I think that, look, I think Dame's been a complete professional the whole time. Like, he reported to camp for the Bucks. He played for the Bucks. He's played well for the Bucks. There are just times this season when it does kind of look like, man, the wheels are kind of starting to slow down. I don't know how much this makes sense for Miami, because it's like, okay, you don't want to extend Jimmy. Do you want Dame's contract? Like, that's kind of the question here. But like, theoretically, I could see a way where they finally get Damian Lillard. They just don't get Jimmy Butler with it.
Well, Bam, Tyler are the only players signed beyond 2026. Lillard will cut it into that. That's probably the issue there. I want to ask you, like, this is probably like a bullshit question. It's not totally serious on my end, but like, is it Bradley Beal, Washington Wizards reunion at play at all? Washington seems like a team that could be a third or fourth team in this scenario that we're talking about.
So the problem for them is, I think they're a little bit better run than people realize. And the reason I think that is because they're so bad. They didn't half-ass this thing. Right? Like, they weren't like, oh, we're going to hire, like the Nets. We're going to hire a good coach in Jordi Fernandez, and we're going to get off to this really good start. And then we're going to have to trade these guys for second rounders because we're too good in blowing our chance. Like, Washington is just like a lawn dart. Right out of the gate, they were like, nope, we're the worst team in the league. Period, end dot. No question. We are the worst team. We have an interim coach who's probably not going to be here next year. We have, you want Kyle Kuzma? We'll absolutely trade him. Just send us a good offer. We're only going to play certain players. Like, we're going to play like a 12-man rotation. Like, they have not been, and I appreciate it, they have not been subtle about this at all.
They're going to flip.
Makes you wonder why I bet them on the money line twice over the weekend, by the way.
Did either of them hit?
No. Because I was like, I tried the Pelicans, and I caught the Pelicans at like just the time when they were healthy enough and when CJ got back for them to be good enough to be like, no, we're not losing to the Wizards. Come on.
That game was close to start though.
Yeah, it was. They were in it, and I was really excited, and then it did not work out. So I just think that if you're the Wizards and you're just like Corey Kispert's good, Bilal Coulibaly's good, and actually Alexander Sarr is starting to like pop a little bit.
He's got tools.
We'll probably talk about him this weekend on Bucket on Future Jays.
Champagne's not bad either. I know they're not like super invested in him long term, but
they got some, and so you can see like a future there. That doesn't include Jordan Poole or Kyle Kuzma. And that's kind of the thing is like, if they would definitely get in on a deal because they'd be like, hey, we'll send out Jordan Poole, which helps you. But I don't think they're going to be willing to take back Beal's 3 years left. I just don't think that there's any reason for them to do that. Like, I don't think that they want to be on like a process 4-year awful plan. They just want to be on like a normal, hey, hit rock bottom, tank this year, get Cooper Flag, hire a coach, phenom player, Alex Sarr, Coulibaly, and Kispert. Okay. We'll see where we go from there. Maybe another draft pick if they can swap Valanciunas for one.
Putting Cooper Flag in DC, a lot of marketing potential.
Anyway, all right. Let's do some best bets for the Friday slate in the association from the Tommy John Home Studios. As a reminder, every pick that we provide you tonight, you can find in a quick slip in the episode description, whether you're watching on youtube.com/The Action Network, or if you're listening to us on the podcast, just go to the episode description and you can find quick slip links. And what quick slips are is you just click on them and they're going to open up the app and actually drive you right to that bet. So you can just bet it right there. So if you're like, I like that bet, you can go for it. So that's what we're going to do right now. Brian, give me your 2 best bets for Friday in the association.
Bucks Magic under 210.5 and Gershon Yabusele over 11.5 points.
I love every time I should just pencil in a Yabu prop every time I'm on this podcast with you. Bucks Magic under. I'm gonna tail Bryan on this. I like this bet. Knicks Thunder under 225.5 and Nuggets Nets over 230, 223.5. We'll talk about Jokic when we get there. Let's start with Yabusele, and I'm not saying get it out of the way, but Philadelphia 76ers are taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion should play, but Herb Jones and Trey Murphy are out again, and Brandon Ingram's still out. It's very hard to keep track of who's in and who's out for the Pels, as well as the Sixers. I will not bet anything in the world on this game because these two teams are impossible to bet on any basis. But why do you like Yabu here in this specific spot? Maybe go up against Zion.
Averages about 11 without Joel Embiid. This is less of an auto bet for me than it was earlier this year, but I mean, there's no Joel Embiid, also no Andre Drummond or Kyle Lowry or Jared McCain or KJ Martin. I'm probably leaving somebody out, but like somebody's got to score. Pelicans have a bottom 3 defense at this point, whatever it is. And they also allow teams to shoot 37% from 3. That's sort of a big part of this for me. Gershon Yabusele is actually shooting sneakily a 40% from 3 this season on about 4 attempts per game and is making 47.6% from 3 on just under 5 attempts per game over his last 9. So he's shooting the ball well against a team that struggles at guarding the 3 ball, against a team that's going to be depleted. As you mentioned, Herb Jones is probably one of the big ones for me. He's going to be out in this game, and obviously Trey Murphy too. DeJounte Murray's questionable. Like, there's just a lot wrong with this. But Yabusele, I mean, I think he's been playing well, inconsistent. So like there's blow up potential, but there's also the potential that he just winds up with 3 points, plays 22 minutes, and shoots 1 for 7, and then it's a dud. Like it's happened before, but I generally like the matchup. I generally like his highs, and I like how he's been shooting. He just had a game where he made 5 threes. I'm sure he's not going to hit 5 again, but he has been shooting the 3 ball very well lately. So hopefully, for the sake of this bet, it carries over.
Pelicans are the worst team in the league in points in the paint allowed per 100 possessions.
That too. Yes.
The Wolves only got 42. the other night, which was curious. The Pelicans per 100 possessions allow 54. So I was kind of curious as to why that happened in that game. I was on BetStream for that. We were kind of like, that's weird. But I think it was more to do with, I don't think it was Zion. I don't think it was Zion. And I don't like Eve Misi's chances against Yabu in those minutes either. This is tempting. Do you promise Joel Embiid won't play? Like, do you promise?
He's listed out, so
I don't. Does that mean anything though? The Sixers.
If somebody in the NBA is going to go from out to suddenly questionable to suddenly probable, I don't think it's Joel Embiid.
Really? Because he did it last year. I remember that.
I don't think
he's
it's
out.
Well, I don't think it's going to be Joel.
Starting.
I don't think it's going to be Joel Embiid against the Pelicans.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the Bucks Magic and why you like this underplay.
The Orlando Magic have, by percentage, the fourth most unders at home this season. Only Philly, Charlotte, and Phoenix have had more. 12 of 19 unders at home so far. And we've actually been talking about how good they are at home. A big part of that, or the main part of that, is defense, regardless of who's out there. We can hit the Paolo Banchero piece because it looks like he's going to be back for this game. We'll have to get confirmation about when it starts because, maybe they hold him out or whatever. But it looks like we'll have Paolo Banchero, which also actually pushes me toward the under here because, the incorporation of one of your top guys, really your top guy, like that doesn't mean the offense is going to be just smooth right away. And in the event that they even win the game, I think it'll be low scoring. But I also would say, like, we've had the Orlando Magic not break 100 at home, as would just happen against the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. This is the second of a back-to-back for them against the Milwaukee Bucks. They'll be going against the Milwaukee Bucks. So to me, even though it's at 210.5 and it opened at 211.5, so we'll see where this gets to. There's probably a breaking point for me where it's like once it gets below 209, I'm kind of like, all right, now we're talking a little bit crazy here, but they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight games hitting this under. So, and with Paolo Banchero coming back, I'd be surprised if this is a high scoring one. So to me, this is an under. Yeah,
I've got it projected all the way down at 207. So I'm comfortable playing this all the way down. Once you get to 209, I'm gonna feel not as comfortable with it. And at 208, it's probably gonna be a pass. So that's kind of your indication for the morning is like if you listen to this in the morning and it's already moved to 208, once it goes below 210, you want to start cutting off fractions of a unit and then probably lower. But I like it right now and where it's at in the market. This is another one where I'm annoyed that like there's just a lot of times when my projection system pops out a number and I'm like, damn it, why can't you give me what I want? And this is a great example of it where the line's 4.5, I make it 3.9. That's where I'm at. With Paolo back, it's 3.9. Now, what's interesting, the Magic are 61% against the spread at home. Okay, we knew that. Like, we know that they're a wagon at home. They're great in that spot. It's a back-to-back. And the Orlando Magic are 33% against the spread at home in the first half.
Really?
Yeah. It's a weird trend. And so they're not a good first half team. It makes me, with the Paolo being back, because that was the reason that Jay and I liked them, like the Wolves, was like, Paolo being back, this is a really good spot here. We cashed, by the way. Oh! So, like, it's a really good spot to bet Milwaukee, but I can't get there on the number. I'm going to leave it be. But if somebody was like, what's your lean on this game? I'd be like, absolutely Milwaukee Bucks, lay the points. At least take the first half Milwaukee Bucks. I think that's a pretty solid bet there. All right, my two, Oklahoma City Thunder. Totals 220 at 5.5. I've got this at 220.7. So I've got about 4 points to work with here. At 222, I'm going to start getting a little itchy about it if you see that in the morning. The Thunder, when they're on the road, 41% unders with Thunder road games. With the Knicks, this is surprising, 47% unders for the Knicks at home. The market's been has overestimated kind of the total a little bit on these Knicks games, whether it's Knicks offense or Knicks underestimating Knicks defense. They have not gotten there. One of the big keys here is the Thunder are going to be able to switch pretty ably on Cat. Like they're going to be very comfortable playing that switch with Hartenstein, and they'll be pretty good in that. I think in that situation, Thunder off a loss, obviously, like a really good spot. I think for their defense at least to match up. As far as like the spread is concerned on what's the biggest game of the night, I have this right on the number. I can't go anywhere with it. I have this exactly on the number at 3.5. I think that's the right number for this game. That said, I do think this is going to be more of a defensive battle. Knicks have had a few they've played a little bit better defense, and the offense doesn't always click, especially at home. So I'm going to play the under 225.5 for Thunder Knicks in the big game tomorrow. And then finally, this is a much more sketchy one. 223.5 as a total in Nets Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is still questionable. Aaron Gordon is doubtful. He's probably not going to play in this one. He might get upgraded tomorrow to questionable. I will actually like the over more because Aaron provides a lot of passing and he's a connector. The answer to do you want this if Jokic plays or not is yes. So I don't genuinely care. If Jokic plays, they're probably going to drop another 120. The Nuggets this season at home are a 61% against the spread team, or 61% to the over at home. They're dynamite to the over at home. It's been great, except for very few spots. Celtics game was a key exception to that because of the kind of dynamics in play. This one though, I think this is a great over spot. If Joker doesn't play, the Nuggets are going to run up and down against a team that has made it very clear what their intentions are and will probably still put up a very big number. But their defense is not good enough to slow down a Nets team that has a lot of athleticism, and that's where Denver tends to struggle. They will turn the ball over, and the other guys will run. And they have the same level of talent throughout the roster, which means they'll beat up on that second unit with DeAndre Jordan playing drop. So regardless, I'm going to like the over. I'm going to bet it pretty much blind here on Joker. I will like it either way. I will be interested to see what the market goes. So if you want to wait to see if Joker plays and this goes down because it adjusts based off of the speed of the game, totally fair. But I feel comfortable with this no matter what at 223.5, Brian.
I hope Jokic plays, obviously.
Sure.
But I do like that one. And overall, I mean, I actually want to ask you this. What do you make of Russell Westbrook lately? Because he's been playing really, really well. Like, I think this is what you hoped for if you're Denver.
Oh, absolutely.
When you added him.
It's been better than they thought.
Yeah.
The problem is it's like, what do you think of Russ? Oh, he's been fantastic. He's been amazing. He's been so good when he plays with Joker. Like he was good the other night versus the Clippers, but like the problem is that on the season as a whole, he falls off the cliff worse than most without Joker. But I'll say this, he is one of the few players that makes Joker better. Like Michael Porter Jr. has been a complete professional, and he has been awesome. He has been their second best player this season. He is growing into a more consistent offensive threat. Mike works really hard to be available after all the injuries that he's been through, and he wants to play in every single game, and he takes losses hard. Like Michael Porter Jr. loves to hoop. MPJ doesn't make Joker better. Aaron Gordon makes him a little better. Jamal Murray, when he's playing like Jamal Murray, makes him better.
Yeah.
But it's more of just like the dynamic makes Joker more dangerous. Russ legitimately finds ways to get the most out of Joker. Like they want to create the same type of plays. They make the same type of plays for each other. And they have incredible chemistry because of their understanding of the game. Russ has been terrific for them. It may crater. I've said this consistently that it may crater like all the other spots for Russ. It could be a flaming disaster. I'm not going to put my neck out here and be like, it's different this time. I'm not doing it. But it's been good so far. Russ has been really good. And he pushes the pace, which has been a big help. The pace differential with him on the court is wild. Like it's night and day crazy when Russ plays, how much faster they are. And they really like that. Joker likes playing that way. So we'll see if he likes it with coming off of flu-like symptoms. Joker was really sick on Tuesday night. And then
they sent them home, right?
Yeah. He tried to play because he's a psycho and he always wants to play, and they sent him home and somebody went with him. They will have had him on saline bags for 3 days, and then what they'll do is they'll put him on saline and then put him in the sauna and then put him on saline and then put him on sauna and then put him into bed and then saline, sauna, bed over and over and over again. It's really great if you're having NBA treatment would be amazing for all of us if we were sick. But if you're asking me, like, is he going to play tomorrow night? I really think it's 50-50 depending on where the virus is getting through his body. So we'll see. All right. Bryan likes Yabusele over points and rebounds.
Points, just points 11.5.
Okay, I'm going to get sucked into betting on a Sixers game because of him and I hate him for it. We both like Bucks Magic under. I like Thunder Knicks under, and I'm betting Nets Nuggets over. Those are your best bets for Friday in the association. We'll be back on Monday with the future Jays. We'll talk about Rookie of the Year and more. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. My thanks to David Payne for adjusting on the fly tonight, as well as being willing to step in if I hadn't answered the bat signal. My thanks to Bridie Rubino and Gifford Gould getting this up on youtube.com/The Action Network. Enjoy the great football this weekend. Make sure to check out the Action Network podcast for more best bets from Sunday Six Pack and Brandon Anderson. Download the app. Oh, thanks to Sean Little for pulling me in on a day I had off. So I appreciate that, Sean. Good stuff. And we'll see you guys again on Monday. Until then, let's get buckets.